Today's episode is sponsored by No Strings Attached e-News, your premier online magazine with interesting and informative articles from lifestyle, entertainment, and news worldwide. Visit the website to find out what's buzzing on nsaen.com. Welcome to the talk show Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. The goal of this show is to provide a learning experience to people of all ages, with guests from various fields in academics, a wide range of industries, and insight into the many forms of art, athletics, and entertainment. We hope you enjoy the show. Global best-selling psychological thriller author Matthew Blake is today's guest. Matthew will talk about his career as an author and screenwriter, as well as his newest novel, A Murder in Paris.
Author Matthew Blake, welcome to Life Stories with Marc Hoberman.
Thank you very much for having me.
Such a pleasure. Matthew, before becoming a novelist, you worked as a researcher, a speechwriter at the Palace of Westminster. How did that world of politics and language prepare you for writing psychological thrillers?
Well, very well. I mean, there's sort of 10 years I worked in politics. You meet an incredibly interesting array of people. You get very up and close and personal with some fascinating characters. So I'd say on character alone and human psychology, working in a sort of cauldron that politics is absolutely brilliant. I also was doing speeches and all that sort of stuff. So you learn how to develop messages that will hopefully resonate with lots of people, how to simplify things, how to sort of portray a message. So yeah, in terms of characters, in terms of the writing itself, I'd say it was absolutely perfect training.
So when you do speech writing, a great show that I loved was The West Wing.
My favorite, absolute favorite, yeah.
Absolutely love it. And I guess Sam Seaborn was a character played by Rob Lowe, was a speech writer. So how do you feel when you hear people say things that you wrote?
Well, I mean, as long as they say them as I wrote them, I feel pretty good. I mean, usually what you get is it's a sort of it's a distant version of the impeccable line you wrote. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it was great fun. It's I think it's a great thing to do in your 20s. You get to a point where you like to have your own name on something and so you sort of move out of it. But as an initial training out of university or college, it's unbeatable, really. It really shows you how life works, how institutions work. And as I said, I think certainly true in British politics, it might be true to a degree in American politics, that there isn't a huge amount of money at that level. So you tend to have very young people working on quite important things. And so it's quite a unique opportunity if you're in your 20s to work on some interesting stuff. So yeah, no, it was I can't say I miss it, but I'm still using what I learned then.
Right. So you mentioned about being so young, and that's interesting because I've helped people write presentations for education. I was a teacher for over 30 years, so for schools and for students and things like that, and much older than you were when you wrote in politics. So I have to ask you, when you hand somebody a speech and they look at it and they start redlining it in front of you, how does somebody that young check their ego and not go, listen, you let me do the job or you do the job? And we just sit there, all of a sudden you get it back and, oh, here's 3 words. Thanks so much that you left 3 of my words in. How does that work?
Well, it's a tricky one to begin with. I mean, I think in some ways, actually, when you make the transition from speechwriter to novelist, you almost have to get more of your ego back, I think, because you can almost get into a thing where you're almost too responsive to other people's suggestions. So, I mean, certainly in politics, you can't be precious. You've got to sort of take one for the team. And in the end, what matters is what works and what the person you're working for wants. That's the job. When it's your name on it, I think you've got you then in some senses are the politician. You've got to say, this is what I want. And you will get, if you're with the sort of the big publishing houses, tons of, I mean, everyone's got an opinion. I mean, it's an entirely subjective medium. So there is no shortage of opinions, and almost always they are conflicting with each other. So I think part of the skill I've learned, I think it's a pretty important one, is how to filter out the noise and actually think, no, this is what I want it to be, and this is the hill I'll die on. I've always found if you if something doesn't work, but it's the way you wanted it to be, you can live with that. If it doesn't work, but it's not, you changed it because someone else told you to change it. In the end, it's your name on the book. You'll get the blame. So you've got to think, they'll conveniently forget that they ever gave you that note. So you've got to think, it's my name on the cover. I'll take responsibility. Is this what I want it to be?
Excellent. That resonates with me so much. I have a niece and a nephew who are writers. I love that philosophy of this is the hill I'll die on. But what you said is so true. I've helped a lot of people with college essays, and I say to them, Mom, Dad, and to the student, when you think you're done and it's your voice and it speaks to who you are, it's done. If you line up 6 English teachers, 3 guidance counselors, and your aunt, each one of them will make changes down the line. At some point, it has to be done. So I want to talk now about your debut novel, Anna O. Inspired by your deep dive into sleep-related crimes, and I think it's resignation syndrome. So now it's being turned into a series on Netflix. So here's the masterpiece now. So the question is, when you write it, you have hopes, you have dreams, you read it and say, boy, I really love it, speaks to me. But where was your brain thinking that it had any chance of becoming what it became?
Well, I mean, I think I got you're always hoping that it's going to resonate with people. I got an indication that I might be on something when I first sent it out to agents, and I got my first response from an agent in under half an hour. And as I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. Something about the pitch is clearly getting their attention. So I've sort of that's good. And then I ended up with about 30 agents wanting to sign me. So I thought again, well, that's a good sign. And then, it just sort of blew up after that with publishers and preempts, and, it was selling all around the world within 48 hours, and it was incredible. So, but I think that first email back from a literary agent, almost immediately after I sent it, I thought, well, the pitch, the idea is clearly a one that they're interested in, and that's good. And I'd hoped it would be. I thought I was looking for something that might have a universal resonance. Sleep is obviously one of the few things all of us on the planet do. So I thought if I could craft a thriller around that, then it stood a chance of connecting with people.
Well, it certainly did. But I have to, I'm seeing a graphic image. You're saying, well, the agents. I'm seeing blood in the ocean, which is the novel, and 30 sharks coming in. We know who they might be. So it's very difficult because when you get that number, then okay, if they're contacting me this early, something's up. But my question to you is, there are viewers I know who are writers. I've written a couple of books, and when you get 30 people like that, now it becomes, okay, who am I picking and why?
Yeah.
How does
So, I mean, again, it was sort of hearing them out a bit. I mean, I had the agent I ended up with is the one I was sort of my dream agent. That was she is the sort of represents psychological thrillers and gets and sells things around the world and is sort of very well known for that. So but I never, it was always a sort of bit of a dream to try and sign with her. So she was always one I was going after, but I mean, there are a lot of amazing people, and it was an incredible time. I mean, it's when you're in our business and you have this huge sort of highs and lows, you've got to make the most of the highs, and that was a real high. It was it felt like hitting the jackpot. It's all of us are trying to create something on our own that you then hope when you take it out into the world has an impact. I do screenwriting as well. I've done with the speeches I've done. I know full well most of the time you take something out into the world and you just get the sort of deafening sound of silence. So when you don't get that, it's an amazing thing. And that was a particularly special time in life, really.
Well, you mentioned the jackpot, but I'm a slots player. I love slot machines, and there's a jackpot, then there's the grand jackpot. for example.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. One of my favorite authors is Harlan Coben, and
But definitely hit the grand jackpot
yes,
multiple times.
yes, exactly. So he has several shows on Netflix. So
Yeah.
I know that you had high hopes for Anna O, and it did so phenomenally well. Global, 30 agents chasing you and all that. But at any point in your mind, were you thinking streaming, movie, series at all? Or were you just in the, oh my God, I think I wrote a great global bestseller? Was that the only lane you were thinking of at the time?
Well, I mean, because I do screenwriting, I'd be lying if I said I didn't. There's not some little part of my brain that hoped it might get uh, picked up somewhere. I mean, in that I would be part of adapting it. I mean, again, you're not necessarily hoping for Netflix straight out of the gate, but I mean, it was amazing to get that. I did sort of plan it because at the same time I was writing it, I was doing a huge amount of TV pitches and treatments and stuff where it's like a Word document where you set out all the episodes and you outline it and you do all that stuff, which is a lot of the sort of bread and butter work of pitching TV shows. So I think I had a sort of episodic structure in mind. The book has a slightly episodic. I don't know whether it comes over to the readers, but I can see where the episode breaks are in my mind. So yeah, I mean, it was bubbling away, but you never know with these things. But no, when Netflix and Warner Brothers came on board, that was quite a moment. You dared to hope, but it was amazing when it happened.
Interesting, because subconsciously, I sometimes I read a book and I see it as a movie, or I say that episodic nature that was in there, and I didn't realize that you did so much screenwriting, and so that's definitely evident because it's we'll talk later about how it's one scene to another scene, those kind of things. So your newest novel, A
Yes.
Murder in Paris, is your latest work. Uh, can you give us a glimpse? Oh, by the way, here it is.
Ah.
We'll talk later about how much sleep you owe me because of the way you wrote this book, but that's another story. Give us a glimpse into the premise without giving away too much. What sets this story apart from your first novel?
So, as the title suggests, this one is set in Paris, in the City of Love, and it's all about a memory expert who gets a call from the French police saying that her grandmother has entered the lobby of a five-star luxury hotel on the left bank and is claiming to have once committed a murder in room 11 of the hotel. And the grandmother is actually claiming that she was originally known by a different name just after the war. And so our memory expert, Olivia, has to go to Paris and try and solve the mystery of, did her grandmother once commit a murder? Was she once known as under a different name? And what really happened in the Lutetia Hotel 80 years earlier? And is the past and the family she's been told about all her life, was that really all a lie?
So interesting, and I have to tell you that I tried not to laugh when you said the City of Love. So those of you who are going to read this book, don't be fooled by the City of Love. That really isn't in here. So I have to. Is it pronounced Lutetia?
Yeah, that's how I pronounce it. Yeah, I think that's the anglicized version. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was an English teacher for over 30 years, and I have to tell you, I love characterization, but this is going to seem weird. Many people wouldn't say this. The Hotel Lutetia was one of my favorite characters.
Oh, good. Mine too.
Very
Yeah.
rare that an inanimate object is such a powerful character, because many times through the novel, and only because I was so engrossed, I'm not going to give the names. I forgot who the character thought she was first, who she was first, and the names back and forth. And I would go back and I'd get so engrossed because the descriptions of the hotel and where it happened, for me, it was never just about those two characters. It was about where they were in relation to the hotel, even the main male character, people of that. So I thought that was just phenomenal, because I have not been to Paris. I could feel the opulence and, more important, the history of the hotel on each page, if that makes sense.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear, because that was exactly what I was going for. The hotel is the sort of one of the main characters of the book. It's an I mean, that's how the idea came to me to begin with, was discovering that in this luxury 5-star hotel, it it's famous. It once housed all French survivors of the Holocaust. So the war ended. They were released. They came back to Paris, and they were all housed in this hotel. So you have the most extraordinary images and photos of French citizens still in the uniforms of the concentration camps, sitting in the grand ballrooms, staying in this incredible hotel, which had just been vacated by the Nazis themselves, would stay there during the war. So you've got this incredible building which really charts almost the course of history itself. I mean, it was a place where lots in the 20s and 30s, lots of famous French painters and thinkers and cafe society types met. It then was occupied by the Nazis during the war. Then you have the French citizens returning, and then now it's still there. It's still the only Palace Hotel on the left bank. It's had this massive revamp. It's one of the most incredible hotels in the world. But when you go there, as I did, you wander around, and history really seeps through the walls. It's an incredible experience. So yeah, the hotel is such a character in the book.
Well, such a dichotomy here, because I live 30 minutes away from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania is the Bethlehem Hotel. Almost every year wins #1 historic hotel in the country. And you go in there, and there's pictures of the Dalai Lama and politicians and baseball players, but the pictures that are looking back at you are pleasant memories of the past, which is not exactly what was seen in the book, but that history, if you forget history, you're doomed to repeat it. So I just love that whole aura of it. I have to tell you that your books seem to explore a moral and psychological complexity, guilt versus innocence, but in very extreme situations. So what fascinates you most about putting your characters and your readers into those moral gray areas?
Well, I think that I'm fascinated by the mind and how the mind works. I think it's one of the great sort of mysteries left. We know a lot about the brain, but in terms of the mind and the connection between the mind and the body, I think that's probably one of the last great medical mysteries we have. And I think that sparks the moral dilemmas. I mean, I think one of the great things in thrillers or mysteries that I love is when you can see the same set of facts from two different angles. That's the sort of nature of the twist. That there's a famous poem that's titled "Not Waving but Drowning," and I always think that in some ways encapsulates what you're trying to go for the twist. It's the same action, but depending on how you view it, it means extremely different things. So in Anna or A Murder in Paris, I think I'm always trying to surprise the reader, thrill the reader by setting them off on one course, and then suddenly a second way of viewing the same events comes about. And I thought it was just interesting with the history of the Lutetia, that you could return to Paris having been through one of the most traumatic experiences anyone in the world has ever been through. And the sense of, how do you begin your life again? How do you reinvent yourself? Do you almost psychologically need to start again? There's lots of, in a pre-internet world and the pre-social media world, there's lots of examples of people who did do that. They did take on different names, invented their backgrounds and lived wholly different lives. And how you adjust to that mentally, how you keep imagining yourself as the new person, not the old self. Those things fascinate me completely. So I think you get those all through both books, really.
Yeah, that's just great. But I have to tell you, so refreshing to me is sometimes I have to get to page 240 in a novel before the phrase is there, and I'm saying that's where they got the title from. You have to kind of guess. So I'm wondering, did you get any pushback? It said A Murder in Paris. You go right in, you know what's going on. I find that refreshing. Did anyone push back and say, how about, because 57 opinions? No, call it the Lutetia Hotel. Call it City of Love? Question mark. I mean, it could be so many other things. How did that come about? Because I love that.
Oh yeah, well the title, I mean, that took months and months and months. I mean, the yeah, work, because he's published in over 40 territories in the world, but particularly working closely with 3 English language editors, so UK, US, and Canada.
Mhm.
Yeah, you don't get a huge amount of say, if any say, in those decisions. To be honest. So they debated for months and months and months, and then I was told this is the title. So originally, I think my title was totally different. So yeah, I mean, it worked out well in the end, but yeah, they felt that this A Murder in Paris described what the book is, and it does. So, and I think I particularly wanted to get Paris in there. I think I wanted people to. It's a novel that is so steeped in, probably, I mean, I think it's the most visited city in the world in terms of tourism. It's such a magical place. So I wanted people to pick up the book and think, I'm going to have, yeah, okay, it's a psychological thriller. There is murder, there is all that stuff, but I'm going to have a sort of escapist journey into this amazing city, and I'm going to enjoy that. I'm going to enjoy the hotel, and I'm going to enjoy that part of it. And for me, I love thrillers and mysteries. That's what I love in the book. I love being taken somewhere different and somewhere that I'm not familiar with, and so I wanted readers to get that.
So interesting because some people would read this and read it and say, "Wow, that was great. I'm not going to that hotel. I'd rather stay in a Motel 6 now." But but
Well, lucky for almost all of us, since the redevelopment, the prices to stay in the Lutetia are, yeah, unless your company's sending you there, you're not going to be staying
exactly.
there. So,
But I'm like, listen, I would go in that lobby. I'm sure security would throw me out, but I have to tell you that now you have to see it. Um, on my show, Matthew, we really focus on the story behind the glory. It means we dig into the personal journey, including the struggle.
yeah.
So what was one of the biggest challenges you faced in getting not just your first book published, but getting where you are today? What were the struggles? How did you overcome it?
Well, lots of struggles. I mean, there's lots of books written that as I said, never got published. Lots of sort of wrong turns taken. I mean, I think one of the key challenges that people often don't talk about very much, but nevertheless you sort of encounter in your professional journey as a writer is actually, in some ways, what happens after you get the deal. And it's not always easy navigating your way through. You're working with big corporations, big publishers, and the editorial process can be a tricky one. It's not like you're making a TV show where there's a group of you in a writer's room and you're getting notes from sort of the big boss and you're all talking about how to do it. It's literally you, and you're just getting notes in from all sides. And so how you maintain perspective on something, how you don't crumble over the fact that there's just endless notes and you seem to be going, round in circles at times. How you make, we're dealing with thrillers where obviously there's a twist at the end and they're really designed as one read experiences. That's how most of us read thrillers. So you get the twist ending and that's it. It's funny when you're doing it because you're reading it about 20, 30 times.
Yes.
And somehow you have to maintain some freshness. And obviously there's a tendency that once you know the twist, then in some ways you can, when you read it for a fourth or fifth time, you start overcomplicating the earlier bits because actually the twist ending and you're trying to you're not seeing it as a reader would. So yeah, I think the main thing I've struggled with, and I think is such a thing to grapple with, is how do you think like a reader? How do you try and view your own material as a reader will? And how do you avoid getting a lack of, getting tunnel vision with it, really? And I think lots of people deal with it in different ways. I remember Stephen King puts his manuscripts in a drawer for about 6 weeks and then comes back to them, or has his sort of he has his wife, I think, who is his main reader, who gives him another perspective. But I'd say that that's an ongoing challenge for any particular novelist. It's such a long art form. It's 400 pages. And how, particularly with genre novels, how do you keep that freshness as you edit?
Oh, outstanding. So I just have to tell people, I have to give them a disclaimer, a warning. If you read this, don't start it at 9 o'clock at night. I have to tell you that my wife and I, we had 2 copies. So I had her read it first because I knew I'd read it quickly, because you do my favorite thing. It's my favorite and worst thing. There are short chapters, and I'm famous for saying, oh, it's 10:30. One more chapter. Well, then it's one more chapter and it's 2 in the morning. So it's unbelievable. Fast read, brilliant, so many twists and turns. It's like when I watch Midsummer Murders, which I think you mentioned in the book, with my wife, and he did it, they did it. We don't know what's going on. We would pass each other and say, what are you up to? What are you up to? So just phenomenal job. I wish you even more success. Can't wait till Netflix does its thing. So Matthew,
thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today and sharing your writing process with us. I'm sure your passion for writing will resonate with the viewers, plus your perceptive ability to realize that you don't always hear a yes right away. And I'm glad you had so many yeses, but this perseverance is something others need to see is the key to success. So Matthew, thanks so much for being today's guest.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you for watching Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. To contact Marc, email him at info@lifestorieswithmarchoberman.com or visit him on social media through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Thank you for watching Life Stories with Marc Hoberman.